Welcome to the Scene Snobs Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Scene Snobs Podcast. I'm your host, Mick Manhattan, and it is an all-new episode. And I'm so glad that you joined and you are here, either watching live or listening or watching later. Thank you guys so much. I want to say how much I appreciate you guys jumping on. And if you haven't already, go check out our new Snobs merch store, which is available. If you guys haven't checked it out, it is available. It is up and running. And we've put some new stuff out there. Movie themed stuff, lots of fun graphic designs and things like that. So go check it out. There's some cool stuff like right now we're doing Knuff is Enough. You a fan of do you hate the Barbie movie? Really? Yeah? Well, Knuff is Enough. Go pick up some Knuff is Enough merch. Or are you a fan of the Barbie movie? Can you feel the love tonight? We definitely have merch for everybody. That's right. So go check it out. It is available. But let's get started. This is the Scene Snobs Podcast, and I have a very special guest host with me tonight, and I am going to bring him on. Actor and producer, and he's got so many projects out, and I can't wait to get to him and talk about those and more tonight. We're going to really get into the acting art form, and that is the man, Chris Rhydings. Thank you for coming back to the show. Chris, welcome.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, how are you, sir? Thanks for coming back on, man.
I'm doing fine. Overall, doing good, I suppose.
Welcome back, man. Thank you for joining in.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a blast. Last time I was on your show, it was doing Real Combat. I have an 0-2 record.
You do? Oh, my God, you do have an 0-2. Well, Real Combat will be coming back, so hopefully we can get you back on and get you that one.
I was like, it'd be nice just to win one.
It's coming. It's coming. And we're actually opening it up more because we're going to bring back Real Combat, but now we're opening it up from not just defending a movie, but we're going to have different ideals. So like you can, we'll have episodes where you can movie versus movie or scene versus scene or, different aspects of movies. So it might be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds good.
So, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what you got going on, what projects you have out, and tell us about your career a little bit.
Okay, so, sorry, a little tongue-tied there. Indie actor, been doing things for a couple of years now. Most people might recognize me from Bloody Summer Camp. I played the role of Terry as well as Devilface for numerous scenes, but I've been in other indie films, and I've been directing and doing a lot of sound work lately. And acting. I have like 15 some odd projects coming up now. Yeah. Biggest one, some of the ones I'm most looking forward to particularly are Heavy Duty Man. We wrapped that a few months ago. I'm hoping that we'll have a trailer out soon. I play a big old asshole in that one. We got Head on the Writer's Block, where I'm directing my first short film. Editing it now. It's almost done with editing, and we'll go to color and sound and music and all that. And I start filming Wrestle Massacre 2 later this month.
Very cool. Oh, nice. That's awesome. So you're getting ready for that project. And actually that kind of brings us into like where we're going with it. And let's talk about some of your projects along the way.
Sure. Thank you.
Going into this project specifically, what is it like? How do you, as an actor, this is your art form, how do you sort of get ready for projects like this? Especially you're saying it's Wrestle Massacre 2. I suppose there's a lot of wrestling in it.
There will be a pad, yes.
How do you prepare for something like that? Is that something that they're going to help train you with, or is there a lot of stunt work that you're involved in?
I would say some of that's a little bit 2D determined, depending on because we're also having like legit wrestlers in the film. So I'm figuring they're going to be doing most of the tumbling, even if maybe it looks like somebody else. But I actually have an amateur wrestling background from when I was in high school and middle school. So a little bit of a background there and some MMA stuff from when I was back in college. But in regards to getting ready for a role, it's practice, rehearse. Prior to starting indie films, I was more of an improv guy. I did improv theater for like a decade prior to really getting into film. But kind of when the pandemic hit, improv just kind of took a nosedive. So kind of got into the indie film world, and it's been fun. And I've been doing it pretty much ever since. But I have to practice my lines a lot because it doesn't come naturally to me like it does somebody else. So for me, it's a lot of rehearsing, but it feels very rewarding. I had a lot of fun recently. Like we did Crackoon, and I got to improv some of that, but I had all my lines down. So it's a fun blend when you can do it together.
Nice. And so like with Crackoon, something like that, which is I'm assuming it's a parody piece of something like Cocaine Bear. So
I'll say inspired.
Inspired, sure. But like even then, like saying parody, for me, that's always been. I think that word has been sullied in such a way to mean that you're making fun of or mocking. Whereas, like, I feel like parody could mean many things. Like, like as long as it means it's more paying homage to.
Yes, I felt like when reading the script and when putting Brad Twigg, Fuzzy Monkey Films was putting that together, I felt it was kind of inspired in that respect. Be like, well, if you like Cocaine Bear, well, then you're probably going to like Crackoon. Be like, you just watch one, and then it's going to be like, oh, your next suggested film. Well, let's check that out.
Well, thinking about something like that, clearly there's there's a lot of comedy and gore and that goes into something like that, a project like that. For you, is that a fun element? Like, what kind of projects like a Wrestle Massacre 2 versus Crackoon versus maybe a more dramatic piece or something like that? Like, when you're on set, what do you tend to gravitate towards?
Well, I tend to get booked for horror films. I would be interested in doing some more dramatic pieces, but that hasn't really come up for me much lately. Sorry, my cat, he can't decide if he wants to get attentions or be on camera.
Fair. That's all right.
But yeah, it's, one of the things I particularly liked, Heavy Duty Man is probably one of my favorite films I've done because it is very comedic, but also just action, like a bunch of action. And I love it dearly. I am so excited for people to watch that one. I think it's going to be a nice blend that people are going to enjoy, and people are going to see different sides of actors that they've gotten to know in the indie community, where you've seen a lot of us in various horror films. This is really a chance that some people will see us stretch our arms and wings and all that stuff. Particularly love Shonda Rawlings' character in our film. She gets to, if you loved her comedic bits in Bloody Summer Camp or other films, we let her just run wild in some scenes, and it shows.
That's awesome. Yeah. And for something like that to be able to step in, and I remember when you guys were getting ready to film that, and now it's cool that, you're a few months out and like a trailer's getting ready to, like, that whole process just has to be such a good feeling, even from an acting standpoint, because you're watching this whole thing. It's just like this. It's got to be surreal. Oh
yeah, I mean, I helped produce it and put it together for Heavy Duty Man. My production company, Hitless Video, was involved as well beside Cinephoto. So I was in the trenches with it for that film.
That's awesome. That's very cool. So for you, like, what made you want to get into acting? Like, what was like your spark, the thing that really pulled you into it?
Well, for improv particularly, it was just I enjoyed it. But as I've gotten older, indie film, not to sound, I guess, maybe a little sad but it was mostly to make friends. I kind of wanted to expand and be part of a community. I enjoy acting. I enjoy producing and directing. And I have made some money off of doing those things, but it's not my day-to-day work anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but it is the sense of community that can come from that is enjoyable. And I mean, as we get older, it's harder to make new friends. It's harder to meet new people. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to get into indie film to do that.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to think about it too, because you really do get into this community. And like you said, especially with the indie community, it's really sort of it comes together and pulls people in. So, and it's just this group that kind of stays together. Like I know you've worked with, you spoke about Shonda Rawlings and such. And
I love her.
pretty well. She's fantastic. Yeah. And you've worked with her a few times and a few others. How, when you step on set and you see people who you are so familiar with from other projects, like, what is the feel with, like, maybe some newcomers that come in? Like, how do the ones that are familiar with each other sort of absorb the newcomers in? Like, what's a process for that?
Well, I think it really depends on what they want to do. Like, for example, with Heavy Duty Man, I'm going to give a small shout out there. I have a buddy named Isaac, who's now my buddy. But at the time, we didn't know him. An actor of ours, Catherine, was like, hey, I have this friend named Isaac. He wants to learn. Can he come on set? And we're like, yeah, bring him. And I asked him what he wanted to learn about. He wanted to learn about cameras. So I put him with our cinematographer. I was like, okay, this is Isaac. He wants to learn. If he is your personal PA, use him as you need. And he got in the trenches himself, and he's now learning about sound from Jordan Miller, and he's being put into the trenches and learning as he goes.
Very cool. That's awesome. And it's cool that you got to do that too and be able to help somebody out like that. And that's the wonderful thing I think about independent filmmaking is, like, so many people, doesn't matter what their position is within that film, you can always learn different things, and everybody always has sort of a thirst of knowledge for doing that. So it's always fun.
Yeah. He's doing great. Isaac has just started he did some sound for Head on the Writer's Block on Matt Burns and Jordan Miller's piece. So he's getting in there. I'm very proud of him.
That's great, man. So let's talk about the industry a little bit as a whole, and kind of like what you see so far. Let's talk about from an acting perspective, and even as a producer and filmmaker in general. Right now we're in the midst of this writers and actor strike, with SAG-AFTRA and WGA and everything that's happening. I would love to get your input and your feelings on what's being asked about the demands that are being asked, how you feel about, like, what the studios are saying and doing in regards to this, and it being drawn out. Let's start there. I know it's the whole process is a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we look at it, SAG-AFTRA has there's a lot of things they're asking in regards to their contracts. However, there's mainly two big pieces that they're trying to option for. They're looking at changing how residuals are organized in regards to the concept of streaming, because the big streamers, Netflix, Hulu, Disney, don't share those metrics like television networks do, or companies that sell DVDs. Residuals are based on the concept of looking at presently DVD sales and reruns on television for the most part. When you look at streaming bits, since the big boys don't have to share that data, they can say it's really whatever they want. Actually, I watched a video recently where it talked about one of the actors from Stranger Things, which is one of probably the most popular show Netflix has put out, at least in my understanding. One of the actors on that, she noted that she was like, guess what my residual off of Stranger Thing was. And I believe this is the mother of one of the lead children. And noted other residuals she used to get from other shows and things on regards to TV. And it was like 3,000, 4,000 when it was normalized. Her check was about $300.
Crazy.
So a show that has over 1 million reviews on like IMDb and things like that, and probably way bigger than anything she's worked on before, $300.
Yeah. And now, so for you though, like to think about that. So, like, I don't know which actor you're talking. I mean, you could be talking about Millie Bobby Brown. You could be talking about.
No, I said the mother of one of the
mother
boys.
of one of them. Okay, yeah. So,
I just don't recall her name at the moment.
Yeah, so somebody like that, like, so and to talk about it from the perspective of, like, and this is more me asking than throwing it out there or anything. This is more, I kind of want to get a better understanding, I guess, is really where I'm going with this. So let's say the actor that you're talking about isn't on most episodes, right? So streaming, let's say there's about 10 episodes.
Sure.
And she's on maybe like 3 or 4 episodes per season.
Mm-hmm.
And the residuals. So do you think in a situation like that, like, you know, what percentage should they be working out for some? Now, I'm not saying $300 even for that is incredibly low for as much as that gets rewatched. So no argument here with what's happening. This isn't really an argument. This is more about, like, you know, in your minds, like, for what they're asking, like, what is a livable, like, for you, if you were in that, you know, like a residual in a situation like that for maybe background players who, or not even background players, but like the players who are, you know, not in the first 5 spots of the call sheet. Okay. What's a good sort of percentage, or maybe not percentage, but like a livable area to go with in terms of pay?
So how I would look at that is, if let's look at SAG-AFTRA's health insurance policies. Mm-hmm. So SAG-AFTRA requires that in a year, one fiscal year, you have made over at least $26,000 via your acting gigs. $26,000. I would say in most areas, $26,000 is probably not a livable wage, but that is the requirement. Then we look at the whole group of SAG. We look at the membership, which is not just $1 million actors. We're talking dancers, stunt actors, voiceover artists, and things like that. When we look at the data, 87% of the SAG-AFTRA members do not qualify presently for their health insurance. So I think what is at least a respectable piece is that we look at how we can make that metric that these individuals can still afford their rent, their health insurance, things like that. I don't think, because you're also looking at the images used in perpetuity. Mm-hmm. That you've filmed them, that film is now going to be seen decades longer, maybe, until it's forgotten by the mists of time, so to speak. I mean, people still watch Nosferatu in black and white. So you're talking about someone's image being used pretty much forever. I think that's worth something.
Mm. I agree.
Especially if you've also had them acting and doing things that were dangerous or revealing, people who participate in nudity or sensitive scenes. I mean, that is forever on film. Even if they had a small part in a show, like let's say one episode, but they still do something revealing or dangerous, I think that still also rightfully should be compensated. Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, while you're saying that too, let's talk about it a little bit. So, like, the new Flash movie just came out, and we got a lot of cameos in that. Now, a lot of cameos of people who are gone. They've since been passed. Now, you may have the creators of those characters say it's okay to put the characters in. Now, characters, different story. Mm-hmm. Actors, we know Christopher Reeve showed up. Has passed away. Adam West was in the movie. And George Reeves. So, all 3 actors passed away, and they've used their likeness very closely. In your opinion, something like that, so many years later, even if the families agree to it, and I'm sure they were paid or however. Well, I don't even know.
We don't know if they're paid.
Nobody's sure of anything anymore. If they even had to.
Some actors don't get paid for that stuff. There was an article I read recently about an actor for Call of Duty. He got his self scanned for one role. They did it for the video game. Then the video game company took his likeness and put it in another game and didn't compensate him for it, even though they had the scans and they put him in the game. They used his face. They used his voice, but he wasn't paid for it.
And that was it then. It was just that we own you.
Yes. Now that's already happened.
That really sucks.
That man's alive.
Oh man, you just got to live with that. Like that really like bugs the hell out of me that you can just, And there's no rule against it. Now, I mean, listen, now I'm saying all this, and I know I'm saying all this, and in reality, it's like that's exactly what everybody's fighting for at the moment.
Well, I agree with that too. Yes, they are fighting that. For me, one, I think it takes out not even just one. Like the background actors, for example, where Bob Iger and others have talked about, let's scan day actors, get them from background, and use their likeness for forever, basically. One, you're not just taking the background actors' employment away at that point. You're talking about costume designers. You're talking about makeup artists. You're talking about craft. You're talking about all sorts of other jobs that are linked together as just one giant system. If you pull part of that out, the living wages of all those other individuals is also going to be compromised.
Yeah.
But that's the systems piece I'm thinking about at the moment. But another piece for me is, like, let's say an actor, and I have been background for films before, and I've done that for bigger films. What I worry about in regards to the concept of scanning background and doing that stuff is my likeness maybe being used for a film that I have moral obligation or resistance towards.
Yeah.
There's films that I wouldn't want to participate in as an actor because of, let's say, the subject matter or what's going on in the scene. But then if someone had my likeness, I have no say in that. Maybe they use my likeness in something that I find insensitive or against my core beliefs. I could be in that scene and not have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, in situations like this, how it always seems to go is we just press and press. Well, I say we as human beings, but like we press this as a business until something happens, something catastrophic happens, and then we end up with a lawsuit, and then you have to start looking at it and start changing things, unless these strikes actually go through and hopefully can change some stuff up. But I agree with you. These backgrounds, what they're doing to the background actors and things like that, and changing up and shuffling around the idea of how an actor works and how an actor gets started in this business. That is ridiculous. You're destroying the fabric of how this goes. Like, you're basically telling us you want to start. What do you want to? You want to just basically wipe the floor and like wipe out everyone? Yeah, that's a lot of people. Those day jobs are for a lot of people out, especially out in Los Angeles and like in the big cities. So they like make their connections and make
it's a network. Yeah, it's a big network opportunity. You're meeting people, you're talking to people. Maybe you're sitting waiting to be called in for that one scene, but you have about 6 other hours in the day and you're just sitting at a table. Well, you're meeting the other actors, you're meeting the PAs, you're meeting people from the sound department that might be on lunch break. Mm-hmm. Or maybe there's a producer who's doing check-ins. Like, there's a lot of opportunity to network. And those will all be gone.
I think you also pull away learning experience.
Yes.
Being on set, doing things like that, not just for the actors, but like you said, for everybody. Like take away so I don't think people realize how important craft services is to a film set.
It's so important.
And not just having food on set, but having the people who take care of the food and take care of you on set by having it ready, laid out at all times, so you are always taken care of, so you can just do your job. And it's amazing. And when you have, and I know the argument for anybody listening or watching is going to be, well, if you wipe out all those people who are extras, then you don't have to have that big thing. But I'm coming around. You will. When you have these big things and you have this big background, scenes with a lot of people involved and things like that, your craft services, that's your lifeline. They're keeping all of those people happy. It ain't anybody else. It's your craft services keep those people happy for the 8, 10, 12, 15 hours that they are there.
Oh yeah. And that's so important.
And you want to kick them out? You want to take money out of their mouths? And they don't have a union ready to go. No. It boggles my mind that so much of what's being asked now, and not only does it boggle my mind that so much of what's being asked in the strike currently is not unfair. Like, I've seen unfair things asked in the past. I think we all have in any strike, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't have been asked, but you always try to ask for more than negotiate. This is something where their demands really isn't a back and forth. It's just like, all right, this is decency.
Yes, it is job protection. Yeah. Really.
And it's like, we're here. And the funny thing to me is, like, we're kept, the actors have always caught a lot of crap for what goes on. And now I don't take anything away from that, because a bad performance can ruin a lot of things.
That's true.
But how often does the bad performance ruin a lot of things? Like, we can watch a lot of movies. How often do we really go, it's the performance that did that?
Yeah. It's kind of like, the editing or the sound or there's other factors.
Yeah, I told, I forget who I was talking to not too long ago. I was on a show, and we were discussing acting, and we're discussing, big movies like Oppenheimer versus, like, maybe watching, like, indie movies that are like an indie horror movie that, they were reviewing at the time when we were talking about it. And when we were, the comparison of acting is what came up. And I was like, yeah, but you got to look at it like this. Like, and my comparison to that was, when you're seeing Oppenheimer, that's like going to see the Yankees play.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
And when you're going to see some of, like, these, like, really low budget indie, maybe a horror movie or whatever, mostly it's horror that kind of, like, really grasps the low budget indie hearts. And I think that's really why everybody kind of goes towards that and gravitates, because it's fun.
Yes, I think people like to see the shock and awe, and they get various bits of nostalgia, because you look at the production value. Well, a lot of what probably is put out now on indie side is reminiscent, or has at least some heartstrings to things you enjoyed when you were younger.
Great point. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And what they were saying was like, oh, it was terrible acting. I'm like, is it though? I was like, when I watch those movies, I get the level of acting. So, like, and then I start comparing it to when I go to, I was like, I feel like acting is the only place you can bitch and moan about the level of the, where you're at. Like, we talk about A-list actors, B-list, C, D, all the way down. But I'm like, if I go see the Yankees play, I have fun. If they lose, that sucks. But, but if I go see a major league game, I have fun. If I go see a AA game, I have fun. I'm not comparing it to the Yankees. If I go see a barn game, I have fun. If I go see a little league game or a high school game, I have fun, and I'm not comparing it. And I feel like that's where people should be comparing things.
Exactly. And I also think of that, like, when you look at indie film, you also can see the love those individuals have probably put into that film. One, for example, I recently saw, have you seen One of One by Absurd Productions?
I have not yet. I want to.
Okay. I enjoyed it. It's not a horror film. That's why I mention it. It's an indie film that's not a horror film. It does have some horror movie actors that you've probably seen in other things, like from A Nice Bloody Summer Camp Reunion, Michael McGlynn, Kay, Shonda, what have you. But it's different. And you could see how all these people came together and they're telling these stories. And they loved this project. You can see it in their faces. There's big smiles. And you can see people making an honest effort. And that's one of the things I really like about indie film, is that, yes, sometimes the acting is not, as you'd say, A grade, but you could see people smiling, having fun, and you could tell that this was a love letter for somebody. And I think that's also really important to consider when you're making reviews about an indie film on, like, IMDb or on Facebook or what have you, because there's a big difference when you look at indie film, is that the director or the editor or those casts, that's probably the last year and a half of their life that you're looking at. Yeah. They spent that time preparing, editing, making the film, coloring, sound, all of it. and then putting on like a presentation at, let's again reference One of One, where they did it in Winchester, Virginia. And it was a big show, and I had a great time at their premiere. But you could tell that was a big moment for them, where you make those negative comments about those actors, they're probably going to see those things because they're indie film. They're going to read it. You make a comment about Margot Robbie, she doesn't care. She's never going to see it. Yeah. So I reference that to your comment about the major leagues to the little leagues. Same thing. Those minor leagues, they'll probably hear about what you're saying. They might see the sign that you're doing or holding or negative stuff. Where the major leagues, they don't care. They've already been paid. They're doing it. But the indie film community, they're doing this because they love it. It's something they enjoy. Yes, some people are making more money than others, but a lot of it is because they want to make movies. As a director, as a writer, as a cinematographer, sound, actor, what have you. This is a passion for someone in that movie, not just a paycheck.
I disagree to an extent. I don't think like the Margot Robbies and this Cillian Murphys. I think they do it because of the passion. I think they love it. I think everybody making the movies, it's a passion, it's a love. But I do agree that when you're at that level and you have that money, that goes away. That fear of like, and I think that like when we talk about the strike and such, and everybody's kind of trashing like the really rich actors, and they're like, "What do you need more money?" And it's like,
it's not for them.
Yeah, and that's why I love your point about this, is because it's like they're speaking for the people you're not listening to, because the other ones are speaking too.
Yes,
you're seeing them because the news is covering them.
Yes, and that's why they're striking with those individuals, because the cameras would not roll on the strike if you didn't have Jack Black there, if you didn't have other A-list individuals. This strike is for the 98% of individuals in SAG-AFTRA that aren't them, that aren't making $1 million, that are part of that data I gave you, where 87% of the members are making less than $26,000. The strike is for those persons.
Yeah. Which I feel like any job at this point, like if you work for a giant corporation and all of the complaints that kind of keep coming out, 87% making less than pretty much the other 12, that's a standard in most big corporations. Like that huge percentage is not making as much as. But
I wouldn't say 26,000 is even a big percent.
True, you're right. I mean, I'm talking about like even just that percent, like that huge majority isn't anywhere near making what these people are making. You're right. That's not even a livable wage. So on top of that, it's disgusting. So like
I'm pretty sure Netflix could cover those. Because SAG-AFTRA is contract. They make contracts. It's a 3-year contract, and it's meant to work with all the giant production companies and television producers. I think those companies that make billions of dollars can pay appropriate wages for actors and writers and everyone else in between.
Personally, with the movies and TV shows that I'm seeing, like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great TV shows out there. But with the movies and TV shows that I'm mostly seeing online, and especially with these streaming services and some of these studios, the quality is so poor that you're watching these and you're like, in terms of, storytelling and where it's going, because it's just, you can tell there was too much interference. Like it's too choppy or too much going on. Like, and I'm talking about studio interference, not.
Yes, a script by design. Like you have so many people saying we have to hit this demo, this demo, this demo, this demo. I need you to write your script appropriately.
Nothing original. Everything we're complaining about, and I've been talking for a few weeks about franchise fatigue. How I truly think everybody as an audience, for the most part, is just getting tired of franchises in a whole, because the stories are just fizzling. Because at this point, it's like they're just continuing. We're so used to, as creatures of habit, having a beginning, a middle, and an end, and being able to go on to the next thing. With all of these franchises, we're not going on to anything.
Sure.
We're just continuing. They keep telling you, come out, come out. Now we're consumers too. So we'll keep going.
Well, that's why they do it though, because it's a tested product. You came for Spider-Man, so you'll probably come for Spider-Man too.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not something they have to gamble on. It's not like they're making a remake of Bubble Boy and guessing if you're going to come or not.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right, and but I will say this: look at the two products that have done the best this year so far. Technically, three.
What would those be?
One sparked a franchise. It arguably you could say it came from a franchise. Arguably, you could say two of them came from a franchise, but they've never been movies before.
Okay. What would those be?
Super Mario Brothers.
Okay.
Barbie.
All right.
And Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Are arguably the highest rated and critically beloved, and they're gaining the most momentum within money and such this year. And they're not franchises.
Do you think
Not
Mario Brothers?
Not saying they can't be.
I would argue that Mario and Barbie are already franchises.
But that's why I say you could argue that franchises exist for them, but as movies, they're not franchises. So we don't take them in as movies.
Are you sure? Because there are Barbie movies before this. This is just the first live action. Mario Brothers have also
of it.
I'm just saying there are Barbie movies. There are
Barbie movies.
There are Mario Brother movies.
Okay, but it is an original piece written by an Oscar-winning, two Oscar-winning writers.
It's not Lion King 2. I agree with you.
So it's not that weird CGI Barbie movie that we get every day.
Yes,
that's just on Netflix or something. But it's this new original piece is what I'm saying, because like everything else is a franchise that's been coming out.
Yeah, so it's kind of like how the Chucky remake, where they had the cybernetic Chucky doll or however, where I think they were called the Buddy or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Honestly, I would have rather them drop the Child's Play IP and that have been its own individual film. I think it would have done better as its own IP, because you would have had people unfairly comparing it to Child's Play and Brad Dourif and all of that stuff. And like, if you just let it stand on its own 2 feet, which I think it could have, you might have gotten a better reception.
What was that one that came out? Megan?
Yeah.
That's basically exactly the same thing. And it did. That one did like great. And now it's going to be a franchise. Our franchise. So you're right. So like you couldn't, and that's the thing. Like I don't mind if franchises are sparked or if we refresh or something.
Mm-hmm.
But and listen, Marvel. I understand Marvel's a train that's not going to stop.
No.
And I'm not expecting it to. Nor am I saying DC should just. Although the fact that they're not going to have any movies coming out next year is probably a smart thing.
It does really help wipe the slate clean, probably.
I think they need that. I think that's going to be their biggest thing, is like for them to completely wipe the taste out, just get out of everybody's like heads for a little while. It's just like, just be away. Nobody think about us.
And then make them miss you.
Yeah, that's legit. Overall though, like going into it and thinking about all of this and thinking about, I think these big productions that are taking so much money also take the abundance of jobs.
Yes.
How can you have, I don't know, 200 productions a year at, let's say, 5 studios when you're spending $250-300 million on one movie?
Yeah, there's no need to spend that type of money at movies.
No, it's ridiculous. It's overkill, and it destroys. I think it destroys. You put too much into it. Now you can get some good movies out of it. There's some things I really like that came out within these franchises. But if you ask me honestly, do I need this? No. I don't know.
I'm right there with you. There's a few franchises I don't need any more entries. They could just stay over there.
And it's like, if you're one good movie out of every 6 is what you're doing, I don't need I don't need the other 6. I don't need that one with the other 6. Like, we'll just leave it alone. Figure something else out. Let the writers write something new.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, honestly, I'd rather see remakes of movies that did poorly and get a new spin on them.
Very true.
Be like, oh, this movie bombed. Let's try it a different way.
True. Yeah. Now, I mean, it would be an interesting one. Those are the ones you should remake. But I understand.
Oh, it's a big gamble. I get it.
I know, but still, it would be interesting. All right, I do. As we kind of wrapping up and getting towards the end of the show, I do want to talk about one more thing, and that is the use of AI.
Yeah, we haven't really touched on that too much.
Yeah, and that's a big thing within the strike and what's going on in the guidelines. And I want to get your feelings on it, because I've talked about using people's likenesses. AI is a big thing for that. What do you feel about that?
So I understand using AI on a production sale. I mean, I know people who have used AI to help in regards to editing and helping of color and things like that. And I understand using it as a tool in that respect. I do think I see when I see it as a tool, but I don't think AI should be used to replace people. That's kind of how I envision it. Like, we've used products and machines to make things go easier. Yes. Instead of having people work a farm day in, day out, and they still do, but it's not hand to basket and things like that. We've come up with machines and things like that to help move things along. I understand doing that, especially using that for AI, like helping with color correction or sound, and things like that. But I don't agree so much in using it as a replacement for people or creatives and things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that. And yeah, with the deep fakes and everything else, I understand.
That is scary to me.
That is scary, but that's what's coming. That's what scares me.
I had a conversation. I think it was with I want to say Rick Germain, another indie actor. For those who don't know, he has a film coming out soon called Serious Profession that I'm looking forward to as well. But he brought up a point where he mentioned the concept of one day there being a way that you could replace actors with yourself. And so you want to replace yourself as Pierce Brosnan in a James Bond movie, pay $40 and this machine, you've now replaced yourself as Pierce Brosnan running around exploding things.
And it's on our phones. That's the craziest part. And it's the fact that we're just like, it's just out there. But it just, even thinking about it, like, so going back to like the Flash, what we were saying, using Christopher Reeve and
yeah, we didn't finish that.
Yeah, but like to go back to like the deep fake sort of conversation, that's, in my opinion, that's the same thing.
Yeah,
you're basically deep faking this man who's passed away, and like he has done interviews where he's like, I don't know if I feel comfortable with my face being used or my likeness being used after it's gone with something that I haven't approved. Yeah. So like, or read or been a part of, Yeah.
And there's alive actors that they could have done instead of Christopher Reeve, they could have asked Tom Welling. Yeah. That would have gotten similar nostalgia bits. Instead of using I believe a writer as one of the various flashes in the montage, you could have asked the guy who plays Barry Allen on television, either from the 90s or present day. You had various live person who are alive that have played those roles in the past that could have subbed in. Dean Cain, we could have used Dean Cain, or Terry Hatcher is part of the people from that. They're alive. We could have gotten their consent.
Definitely agree with you. And right there, and that's what comes down to is like, we're not asking, that's the problem. We're not asking those questions. We're not asking like, should we be doing this? And then saying, I don't know, it just doesn't feel comfortable. Let's go somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think people are missing that.
And I think that, this is where it bothers me, and it's the philosophy of it is, now, the director had to make that choice, ultimately. let's put him in the movie. And the producers, of course, even if the producers are shoving it and the executives are shoving it down his throat and saying, we want him in a movie, we want him in a movie. Somebody had to sign off. Somebody had to put their name on it. Somebody had to say this is okay. And if we're not multiple people, you're right. And if we're not willing to draw the line in these instances with the people that are already dead, while people who are still alive are fighting to say, I don't want this to happen to me when I'm dead. Yeah. What are we doing?
And that's where I'll actually give Marvel some credit. We have not seen a Stan Lee cameo made by CGI or AI or anything like that. They've not done it. And I kind of appreciate that, because I think it would be kind of hollow to see Stan Lee show up in a new X-Men movie.
Yeah, they've only ever done it with pictures. Like, since he's been gone, like they might put a picture in the background or something, which to me is fine. Like, I get that. I feel it's always okay to pay homage to and put like a poster or a picture up in the background or something. But and I'm glad you pointed that out. It's true. And not just on top of that, they haven't used anybody. I can point out DC and be like, there's a lot of people who passed away that you've used their likeness. You've even used Christopher Reeve's likeness before in many other things.
Yeah.
So like it's it comes down to it where, you think about this and it's just like, you have people on a picket line right now fighting to stop this, and you're still doing it. And it's not just at the studio executive level. So, it gives me something more to think about,
Mm-hmm.
So, but I appreciate the conversation about this, man. Chris, you're being in the business and talking about it and understand, as much as you understand, like, I appreciate you enlightening me on a bunch of stuff and coming on and being a guest host this week.
Hopefully you've enjoyed our conversation. The people who are watching at home and on television later or streaming on television enjoy it themselves.
Absolutely, man. And we'd love to have you back sometime and come back on. And guys, if you want to check out more from Chris and see what he's all about and see what's going on with him, make sure to check out the links in the description below. And thank you, Chris, so much for jumping on and being a part of the Scene Snobs podcast tonight and being a guest co-host. And you are awesome. You can go check out. We're going to keep you updated on Heavy Duty Man when the trailer comes out for that. And we're going to keep them updated on all your projects as they come out in the future.
I appreciate that. Thank you. We're hoping to have a couple things come out soon. And I'm pretty sure Crackoon will be out before the new year. So
awesome. Okay, cool.
That's what I'm hoping, but we'll see.
All right. When you do, you let me know and I'll definitely make sure to promote it.
All right. Thank you. I'd love to come back and talk about it. Maybe we get more of the Crackoon folk and do a big old thing.
Oh, that'd be awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
Or at least the Heavy Duty Man. I can definitely maybe pitch the Heavy Duty Man one.
Yeah. I'd love to talk to everybody, see how everybody's doing.
Oh, that'd be fun.
All right, brother. It was great talking to you, and I will talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Take care, my friend. Bye. Guys, thank you so much. So let's get into it. So, we've been talking about acting, and that got my, I was so excited to have Chris on this week, and I knew with him coming on and him having the background of acting, we were going to have a good conversation about everything that's going on right now and how actors are being treated. So, but it got me thinking about like what's going on in Hollywood and what's going on in movies and television. And, I figure for Snobs Movie Summer School, let's talk about it. Who do we love more, the actor or the character? And this is, again, just that sort of philosophical sort of talk that we get into. The Snobs Movie Summer School helps us cover Snobs Film School, which is over on Patreon. It's a video series that we're starting up this month. Actually, our first video will be out, so you can go check it out. And that is where we're going to be more in-depth covering the side of filmmaking. I have over 20 years experience with filmmaking, and from producing and from production assistant all the way up to producing, we, just different areas, things like that. So I'll be talking about I'll do a video series and we'll be doing other things as well. So go over to our Patreon. It's down below the link. You can go check it out. But Snobs Movie Summer School is here on the podcast. We just talk about things in movies, from behind the scenes perspective, and just kind of rap about it. So if you're in the comments, please feel free to join in, talk about it, and let's get into it. So I was thinking about it from the perspective of, when I think about actors, and like we were talking about, like, it's so easy to say you hate actors, or you hated a movie because of this actor did this, or this actor did that. And is it true? Do we hate actors? Or are they so in our face because of the paparazzi and because of all the magazines and the tabloids and stuff like that? I got me wondering, it's like, when it comes to the love of these characters, like, we have so many favorite actors, we talk about that, and very rarely do we say, well, I love that character. I love, I do have characters that I really do like, but it's not my first go-to. And I know when I have conversations with people, it's not their first go-to either. And I figured, kind of talking about it and trying to figure out, for me, is it the actor or is it the character that really is what I'm drawn to? So like and one of it that comes down to is like Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is the same in basically every movie. He is Tom Cruise when you see him. Now, he knows this. He knows you're coming to see a Tom Cruise movie. There's not much acting that's coming to be a part of it and stuff like that. But he always puts on a really good show. He, having taken control as a producer and being part of that world and really being able to formulate the script the way he wants, formulate the characters the way he does. We've seen that in movies like Top Gun Maverick and all of his Mission Impossible movies and things like that. We see him get to kind of dive in. Now, I will not take away that he is a good actor. I think he is a good actor. And I think he comes from a very good acting standpoint. Go back to a lot of his earlier stuff. A lot of his earlier stuff, he emotes quite a bit, and he plays a really good role. He has a lot of his idiosyncrasies that we are like, that's Tom Cruise, And I think that, and like so many other actors, he was so labeled by him that he started doing them so much, it became like, well, he's not a good actor. This all he ever does is movies. And it's like, well, no, that's an idiosyncrasy. That's different. That's part of his tics of how, what he does within his acting. Like, we got to not judge him for that. Like, if he runs in every movie, that's part of his process. Just like Brad Pitt carries something every time he's walking in a movie. He's always moving. He's always doing something. So my point being, with Tom Cruise, he is a good actor. Watch Edge of Tomorrow. Watch, Minority Report. Watch, I can give you a Few Good Men. You don't go toe-to-toe with Jack Nicholson in that scene, and you're not a good actor. Nobody's going to put you up against a lot of these. Paul Newman in The Color of Money. You're not a bad actor and go toe-to-toe with Paul Newman. It doesn't happen. He plays a different personality in each role that he's in, but he's still the same man. Like, we still get the same man in it. We still see Tom Cruise. You very rarely get those movie stars that really get lost into their roles, like the Daniel Day-Lewis's and things like that, the Eddie Remains and whatnot. James is here. Let's see what he's saying. There are plenty of characters I like played by actors I don't, and by actors I don't like. And there are plenty of characters I dislike played by actors I do. Off the cuff example, I'm not the biggest fan of Awkwafina. She's annoyed me in the past in just about every movie I've ever seen her, but I liked her in Raya and Renfield. I get that. I get why. Yeah, and I get that. That's a good. I've always liked her, but I understand where she's coming from. Like, I think it is. I just know people like her. Like her mannerisms, how she acts. So like, I get why people might think she's annoying, but to me, I think she's really like funny. Like, I think that's a funny way to be. And I think that's why she resonates with a lot of people, because some people just don't recognize that. And I understand why a lot of people may not either, So, that's who she is. So, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying, James. But yeah, especially in those movies, I think she is the most likable in both those movies. So that's a great point. But I also, I would put up there maybe Shang-Chi as well. She was pretty good in that. She was very likable in that. So, and I liked her in Crazy Rich Asians. She was very good in that too. So like with talking about that, and we were talking about Tom Cruise, and Awkwafina is a good example of that. We get a lot of actors who, when they step on screen, you either love their characters or you hate their characters. Sometimes they play it. Sometimes it's just who they are. It just you see their face and it's just like, I cannot watch this. I have mine. I'm not going to say who mine are because I feel like sometimes you pop those out and people will just get pissed. Like, I will say it at another time, but I'm not going to say it right now because I want that to be in more in-depth conversation. But for me, there are actors, I'll turn on and I cannot watch them. I'll say one. I can't watch Sandra Bullock. Now, I'm not saying I haven't seen her movies. Now, I think she's a good actor. I just can't stand certain things she does in movies. So her characters are all the same to me. She brings this personality to each of her characters, and I can tell that's her personality. It's who she is. So I just don't know that I would get along with her as a human being, but it's in each of her characters. Every single one, it's there, that personality trait that I just can't stand. And I'm not going to point it out because I don't want glass breaking for everybody. But it's just one of those things that I can't watch her movies. Somebody will want to put their her movie on. I'm like, I can't do it. I've abandoned her new movies. I just don't even really watch them anymore. It just drives me nuts as much. And so it gets me thinking, little stuff like this is do we watch the movies for the actors or the characters? And I think the answer is easy. I think it's for both. I think what it really comes down to is we find comfort in actors because they, we've talked about this in the past in many different ways all over. People have always talked about this, but I think actors are somebody we look up to because they are somebody who are living a dream, essentially an American dream, the American dream. They've made it, they found fortune, success, the whole nine. They get to play pretend constantly. We love that, and there's nothing wrong with it. And they're living art, every day. We all love that idea of being able to do that and being able to do our art. So we appreciate actors in that way, but we also hate them a little bit for that as well. So I think when we find the ones we like, we stick to them. That's why it's so heartbreaking when we see them fall, when we see them go through something. And then at the same time, when the ones we don't like, when they're getting lambasted, dragged through the mud, we're giddy and we're happy. Now, on top of that, I think you can like characters separately. So if you don't like an actor, I think you can definitely like a character. I think you can like a character they play. I think you can enjoy it, and I think you can walk away from it and be completely fine by it. There are plenty of actors I just don't like, but I love their characters. Russell Crowe's another one. As an actor, I'm just not a big fan of his. I'm not a big fan of his as a person, but some of his characters blow me away. I don't see Russell Crowe when I watch his characters. I see the character. That's another dude who gets lost in it. And it's funny because that's a guy who doesn't look not that he's not trying hard, but Daniel Day-Lewis looks like he actually drank the blood of a sacrificed virgin to get into the character to be able to play it. So that way he's completely lost. And of course I'm kidding, but Russell Crowe just looks like he shows up on set in costume and just rolls and does it. And he's still just as good. So it just blows me away how crazy it is. But my favorite actor, and I love every single one of his characters because they're so bonkers and absurd, is Nicolas Cage. I love it because every time I watch Nicolas Cage, I'm getting a different performance. Every single time I watch Nicolas Cage, it's a different performance. And to me, that's the perfect meld of actor and character, because that dude is crazy in life. He lives the actor's lifestyle and then steps on set and he's a different person every time. Let's see what James has to say. I know everyone hates Jared Leto, but I saw Haunted Mansion recently, and he was really good as the Hatbox Ghost. Honestly, forgot it was him. I think people give him a lot of crap, but I think Jared Leto is a very good actor. And as I think he makes some very good characters. Again, does really well at acting. As an actor, as a big movie star, take him or leave him. I don't care. I probably like his music more than I like his acting, or him as an actor, as him as a person, or whatever. But as his characters, he makes some good characters. Not all of them, but not Morbius, but he makes some good ones. But yeah, that's so to me, like, talking about that philosophy, I think you have to marry the two. Like, you really have to really get lost in it. Like, you don't have to like an actor to like their character, but you can get lost in this stuff. But if you really, and you don't have to like a character to like an actor, vice versa. So I think we all know that this isn't anything new. But when it really comes down to it, these actors, who do we love more? Do we love the characters, or do we love the actors more? I think it's both. I think we both like them. We love them both. Maybe not both of them. Maybe it's not mutually exclusive when it comes to both the character and the actor of a certain person. But I think you can just love both for different reasons. Like, we love Robin Williams and we love all of his characters. That's probably the only guy we can say that about. But there are ones where you're just like, I hate this guy and I love all his characters, all his movies. They're great. It just really comes down to, when it comes to actors and it comes to characters, we need to remember that. It's on tip of my tongue now. I'm doing a podcast, so it's on tip of my tongue. I completely looked out because I looked at the board I wrote on earlier. When we look at characters and we look at actors, we have to remember that liking them doesn't necessarily mean pulling out of the movie. Like, it doesn't pull you out of the movie. Like, the actors get lost in it. And I feel like I'm getting convoluted and lost in this conversation because I'm in a maze. Fact of the matter is, these actors tend to get lost, is my point. They tend to get lost in their own movie stardom. John Wayne's the perfect fucking example of it. So I get a little angry because I got lost in my own labyrinth of trying to explain this. John Wayne is a perfect fucking example of it. That dude was a fucking actor when he started. When he started, I dare you to go out and watch some of his movies, his early movies, and say he wasn't acting his ass off. Watch The Searchers and tell me that guy wasn't acting his ass off. He was. And then he became John Wayne. And that's really what he became a character of himself. And that character of himself became every character in the movie after him, except for True Grit. I will give it to True Grit. He was trying in it. But every movie afterwards, it was just John Wayne delivering lines. And everybody could say The Shootist was great because it was John fucking Wayne. It really was. And that's what we get. So, like, when I talk about the Tom Cruise, I argue against that because I think that's a guy who kind of found both. But because he controls the scenario and he realized, like, this is what people were coming out to see. But you still get different performances in his movies, and that's what you need. Then you get the actors who get completely lost in their characters and they're different every single time. I am getting tired of the ones that don't get lost in it. And we just had, and really one of the biggest culprits of it now is Ryan Reynolds. And I'm going to end on this. I don't want to shit talk Ryan Reynolds because I do love Ryan Reynolds. I love when he pops up in movies. It's always fun. I want him to play Deadpool forever, stuff like that. But tell me when the last time you saw Ryan Reynolds really acting, really get lost in a character. And if you, and I mean, I'm talking convincingly, tell me. Because you can't. Because he's been Ryan Reynolds in a movie for a very long time. But it wasn't always like that. He used to get lost in roles. And if you can watch movies of his now where he gets lost in emoting and doing different things within certain characters, and you're like, yeah, this is great. This is perfect. But ultimately, every movie he's put out recently, it's like the John Wayne effect. It's just a character Ryan Reynolds has created for himself. I don't even think that's who he is in real life. I think it's just who he's created for himself that he can do in all his commercials and all his movies. And we just love it. And you can go home. And that's what I think I'm getting really tired of. And I think that's why I was getting so frustrated trying to explain the difference between actors, characters, and where it's coming from. But ultimately, I think that's where Detective Pikachu... No, he's the same thing as Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu. He is the same in everything. And I can enjoy it because I like him, because I like his personality, and his personality is out there and it's fun. And his control, much like Tom Cruise, where Tom Cruise picks the roles for himself and he fastens it around to the characters that he wants to play and that he knows he can play. Ryan Reynolds takes the role and he fastens it around of Ryan Reynolds will fit in this. The Ryan Reynolds character that I created will fit in this world. Let's do it. You know, I can be a futuristic time traveling space ranger who has to go back in time and find himself as a kid, then go save his dad or do whatever. Adam Project. I can be a guy who's in a non-playable character in a video game, but it's all Ryan fucking Reynolds. It's all the same. So that's where I'm going to finish. And I'm not angry about Ryan Reynolds doing that. I know many actors who, you know, after a while, once it gets to that point, you're a movie star and you play it, that's what it is. But when it gets down to that point, we are starving for actors and characters to love, and it's getting tiring not having that. It's really what it comes down to. And more, like we were talking about the Jared Leto's. Like, I do like Jared Leto because he does get lost in his roles. You never really know what you're going to get, and then you get something like Morbius, and you're like, "Come on, dude, really phone that one in." But that's my feeling on it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my rant on that. That's basically all that was a fucking rant. So that was Snobs Movie Summer School rant of this week. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. If you're watching on the clip, I went a little haywire, but hopefully you enjoyed it. You know, go back and watch the podcast. We had a fun conversation about acting and such. But let's get started on our last segment of the night, and that is, did I just fix the 2014's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? That's right. I'm going to try and fix the 2014 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The one that did well because it got a sequel, but it was widely crapped on. People did not love this movie. I saw this in theaters, and I remember when I saw it in theaters, it was the day, and I'm bringing it up again. So if you're listening to the clip, you have to go back and watch the podcast. But I'm watched this the day Robin Williams passed away. I was kind of bummed out. So I went to the movies, and there was nothing to do. I went to like a little Cineplex, a two theater Cineplex. Sat down in a seat. I was just chilling out, you know, and like there was like a mom brought like 4 kids in. I think they were like 9 or 10 or whatever, and they're sitting like a few rows behind me, so whatever. And I'm watching a movie, whatever, and these kids are like watching it. They were, you know, I didn't care if they were talking through the whole thing. It is what it is. So as we get through and we finish this movie, and I'm like, what is this? Like, what did they just make? What did I just witness here? These kids are freaking out. Now, I'm just telling this story before I get into my fix. These 4 kids are like, I want to be Donatello. I want to be Raphael. I want to be Michelangelo. Oh, you should be Leonardo. Blah, blah, blah. And like, they're like, let's go home and play. It's like the mom took these 4 kids out, and I know they were going to play Ninja Turtles. And it warmed my heart because it reminded me when I was a kid watching and playing Ninja Turtles. I always got to be Michelangelo. Loved it. But yeah, that was so like when I watched it, so there's always like a soft spot in my heart for 2014 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, even though it's not great. But there's a soft spot in my heart for it because I saw those kids freaking out and like wanting to play and like identifying as the characters. Like that was always something for me that was like will always resonate, and I love that. James asks, which is worse, TMNT 3 or TMNT 2014? I will say 2014. I'll say 20. Probably 2014. So, all right. 2014 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a reboot. A very gnarly CGI reboot where live action and CGI, where the 4 turtles really don't look like turtles more than they do look like mutant green things, passing themselves as turtles. April O'Neil, of course, is played by, she is, of course, a news channel reporter, Channel 6 news reporter, and she is played by Megan Fox. Shredder is in it. William Fichtner plays the Shredder's right-hand man in the movie, Sash or whatever his name was. I'm not even going to go over the names on this. I just had to sit down and watch this movie, and it is not great. But the whole premise of this movie is very sweaty, and it's too convoluted and too much craziness going on at any given time. So the Shredder, and his buddy, played by William Fichtner, run this company, which is not TGRI, or is TGRI. They kind of touch down on it, but they don't really touch down on it. And then they kind of get into a weird place with it. It's like Sachs Industries, but so they would test, when April's father was young, he was a scientist that worked for Sachs Industries, and he and his partner, who was William Fichtner, would test chemicals on small animals and things like that. And 5 of them were Splinter and the Turtles. And April would hang out there. She loved them. So when there was a fire in the lab, she saved the animals and set them free. They had the ooze injected into them, so they became, as we know, the Ninja Turtles and Splinter, the rat, the ninja rat and turtles. And now, as the rise of Shredder and the Foot Clan are coming through the town, she is investigating this, and she's leading it back to Sax because Shredder and Sax are teamed up. And she's trying to connect with Sax to let him know, like, Shredder's out there, the Foot Clan's doing this. And, as she meets the Turtles and starts to become familiarized with them and who they are, and Splinter, Shredder realizes, and Sax realized that they freaking convoluted this movie is. They realize that she knows who the Turtles are, and they were part of this Project Renaissance, as they call it. That's why they're named stupid. That's why they were named after the Renaissance painters. And freaking Job is in the movie too for some reason. He's their camera guy. Will Arnett, because he whatever. So this whole thing happens where basically it sucks. It just sucks. They didn't do it right. They tried to tell a bigger, more fantastical tale than they did in the original. You want to get this right? You want to fix this movie? Tell the same tale. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but fucking formula. Why do we need this big corporation? We have TGRI. Fine. It can be a faceless corporation. Why does Shredder have to work for it? All right. But if you want to tie them together, or you want Shredder to be the boss, make Shredder the boss. Show his face. But he likes to moonlight with his ninja clan. Fine. Fine. He's controlling Sax. But in this, he wasn't barely even in it. Shredder was barely even in the movie. It was ridiculous. This whole thing was just sweaty and annoying. And then even when he wasn't even really fighting. He was in this big mechanicalized suit. All right, I realize that this isn't me fixing it. This is me more bitching about it. But it isn't annoying. I realize I have a soft spot in my head, but that's literally it. With those kids wanting to play the game. This is not a soft spot. This episode's going off the rails real fast. But in reality, if you're going to fix this movie, you need to tell a more subtler tale. This gets so overblown, and I think that's what they do with the Ninja Turtles in such big ways. And I don't mind in certain times. I don't mind in the cartoons when they build up to like these huge epic things that happen, or these movie events that happen, because they build up to it. When you have your first movie and it blows up and it's this huge thing, it's crazy. If you don't keep it neighborhood bound, it's nuts. They're 4 Mutant Ninja Turtles in New York City today. Okay, or even if you want to go by 2014 standards, everyone has a phone. Everyone has some sort of video or camera capability and can take pictures of them. You're not a ninja for long. You're not hidden for long. Sorry, Shredder, you're not hidden for long. Your Foot Clan's not hidden for long. Especially when you're openly just chasing reporters and such. It's ridiculous. And one of them is a cameraman. It's nuts. So if you're going to fix this, you need to bring it back down to a street level sort of movie. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The Ninja Turtles have always been a street level sort of comic book. And that was what its charm was. And again, The cartoons and the comic books went to an epic place. And I'm not even saying the movies can eventually go to an epic place. But what are you doing? Like the first one, like they have huge skyscraper battles and like people are seeing everything that's happening. Now, granted, by some will or grace, nobody saw Ninja Turtle in the movie. So whatever, but they all saw Shredder and the Foot Clan, so they all know who they are. But whatever. It's annoying. It really comes down to the fact that it was too big and too all over the place, and they lost control of what it was. We've even gotten out of New York City. They go to upstate New York. They kidnap the turtles to what makes no point, in my opinion. They make it. There's no point in any of the kidnapping of what's happening for where Raph has to go and save them and bring them back. Like it to come back to New York. It was just a stupid, wild, adventurous ride that just didn't need to happen. And it just took away from the story that you could have been telling. You could have been character building. You could have been making this good. One of the best things about the Ninja Turtles was there's such rich characters to them. They're all four of them are different. But in these movies, they were so goddamn similar. So my fix for this was to update it. Show the challenges of having to be a ninja. Having to be teenagers, mutants, trying to be ninjas trained. We're in a world where you're in New York City, the busiest place, the most populated place, with the most cameras everywhere, and not be caught, seen, or heard anywhere. That would have been so interesting. But do it from the perspective of both sides. Shredder now trying to take over a city in secret. That would have been great. And April desperately trying to make a name for herself, so she is going after this Foot Clan because she gets a taste of it. Get rid of the father storyline of or being connected to the turtles in any way. Get rid of all that stuff. You don't even need to, like they did in the original movie, you don't even need to explain the TGRI or what's going on. You can just say, like, listen, it was I don't know, it was 15, 20 years ago or whatever. We got mutant crap on us, ooze, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. And then tell the story, and then just tell those challenges and have some fun with it. They're going to be a great idea. And practical. Go with practical or better motion cap. Do not put the movie out with how they look. They look terrible. I don't know who passed that along. At least like make their faces look somewhat recognizable. They don't have to look exactly like they did in the cartoons in the 80s. I get it. They look juvenile in the 80s. But at least make their faces look like turtles, one. Two, recognizable to the fans. And three, make their, at least have their personalities and who they are shine to us. I think if you're going to fix this movie, you need to bring it down. So that's my biggest fixes for this. You bring it down to the street level. You show all of the problems with it, like, them trying to overcome all of these issues of trying to stay hidden while Splinter is staying, and maybe the frustrations with their father of him. He's always underneath the ground, not worrying about it while they're out there doing the thing. I would also love to see a cool reboot, of the comic books and how vicious they were early on. But I get it. This is a kid's thing, and you want to go with that. But even if you do it with the fixes that I'm saying, you can make it a kid's movie. You can make it work. You can make it fun. You can make them teenagers where they're having fun, and that's what's pushing the limits. And maybe they learn from Shredder, out of their frustration with Splinter. Shredder starts to maybe lure them in and say, hey, think about hanging out with us, whatever. Or maybe one or two of them, like Raph or something, and like he starts to learn the ways of the ninjutsu through Shredder. I think that would have been an awesome fix for it. Something different, something that adds an element to it that tells us why they're still effective ninjas in a world today. Tells us it's a street level movie, so it doesn't seem so bloated, and we're wondering where the hell is everyone? Why is New York not understanding what the hell's going on while cranes and all this other crap are happening? So it just drives me nuts that they didn't push into this. But I think this new movie is going to be really good. This new Mutant Mayhem. It may be big, but it's animated. I think it's going to be fun. It seems like they're going to be playing it up a lot. It seems like they're going to be taking a new direction with the villains, so I'm excited for it. Let's see what James has to say. James says, didn't they learn ninjutsu from a book in that movie? They did. You don't have to do it that way. You can tell any story you want to tell. I'm not saying it has to be that way. I'm not saying that movie has all perfection in it. But what I'm saying is it's a better movie than we got, you know? So let's push for something like that. Like it's a street level type of movie that we really enjoyed, and like it made sense to us. Not this overblown stuff that they keep giving us. I'd love a Stephen Capelli Jr. Or someone who cares about the Turtles property to do a live action reboot. It worked for Transformers. Yeah, I agree with you. That would be really awesome. But I would love to know what you guys think. Did I fix the movie? Did I fix Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 2014? Do you think my ideas would work to incorporate a better version of that movie? Sound off in the comments. Please let me know. Or you can sound off in the Discord. Talk to me there or any one of our social networks. You can see all the stuff that we're on here at the bottom. It's all over the place. Go check us out. Follow us everywhere. We have links down below in our link tree and all that. So please join in. Let's have a good time. Talk about it. You know, it's going to be fun. So I'm Mick from the Scene Snobs. I want to say thank you to my guest co-host tonight, Chris, for joining in. We had a really good time. He's awesome. He's a good time. His movies are fun. And I always it's always nice to really have him on and really talk about like what he's got going on and things like that. He's been on a show a few times before, not just Real Combat, but some other stuff as well. So go back, check out some of those old shows and stuff and stuff like that. But next week, I have a very special episode planned, and it's going to be a lot of fun. One of my guys who helped me start in this, Mario Malillo from Mario Likes Movies. He's also a filmmaker. He's going to come in and guest host with me. He's going to step in. He helped me get into the world of podcasting. He helped me get into the world of movie reviews, doing this. Like after I got out of the film industry, you know, I was living in LA and I moved back, and he helped me get into like the marketing side and all that stuff. So he's going to be joining me as my guest co-host. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. So make sure to tune in. It's going to be a fun live show, or make sure to watch or listen anywhere. We're on every podcast platform. You can go check us out. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I am Mick Manhattan from the Scene Snobs. You guys are all awesome. Thank you again. Make sure to be kind, be cool, take care of each other, stay groovy, and I will talk to you guys very, very soon. Take care.